The player who defines the physical identity of this franchise more than any other offensive contributor stayed silent for months about the questions everyone wanted to ask, my friend. Questions about the severity of an injury that took him off the field in November and kept him out for the rest of the regular season and the playoffs. Questions about whether he had considered ending his career after yet another season interrupted by physical problems. And the question that no Eagles fan wanted to see arise but that could not be ignored. Could Philadelphia still count on him in 2026? In the first media session on the first day of mandatory minicamp on Tuesday, that player answered everything. With the direct honesty that has always defined how he communicates with Philadelphia fans. What Lane Johnson said about the foot injury that ended his season prematurely, why his answer to the retirement question says a great deal about the mental state of one of the greatest tackles in NFL history, and what Sean Mannion's system has that is specifically beneficial for a 36-year-old tackle who wants to finish his career at a high level. You are going to understand all of it right here. If you are a true Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because this was the most honest and most revealing moment that any Eagles player produced during this mandatory minicamp. There are numbers that every Eagles fan should commit to memory because they tell a story that goes well beyond any sack or quarterback pressure statistic. With Lane Johnson on the field, 110 wins, 57 losses, and 1 tie. Without Lane Johnson, 18 wins and 27 losses. 2 completely different teams. 2 records that separate one of the best rosters in recent NFL history from a team that simply cannot sustain the level of excellence the city of Philadelphia expects to see every single week. That tackle is Lane Johnson. On November 16th of 2025, Johnson left a game against the Green Bay Packers with a foot injury that nobody at the time could quantify with any clarity. The franchise did not place him on the injured reserve list, which created the expectation that he might return at some point before the end of the regular season or in the playoffs. Eagles fans waited week after week, calculating the chances of seeing number 65 on the field again before winter arrived. By the end of the regular season, Johnson had played just 10 games. And then came the most emotionally painful news for any Philadelphia fan. He was listed as inactive for the wild card round against the San Francisco 49ers. Johnson's absence from that playoff game was not simply the loss of a high-quality player. It was the loss of the cornerstone that defines what the Eagles' offensive line is capable of doing at its best. Fred Johnson, the swing tackle who assumed the position in his absence, did what he could under the circumstances. But any analyst who compared the line's performance with and without number 65 across that season clearly saw the real competitive cost of operating without the best right tackle in the league for nearly 2 full months. On Tuesday, Lane Johnson sat down with reporters for the first time this offseason and answered the questions that had been open since November. He admitted he believed there was a real chance of returning during the playoffs, that the efforts to attempt that return were genuine, but that he simply did not feel 100% until February or March, well beyond any possibility of participating in the Eagles' postseason run. And on how he feels now, Johnson was direct. He is good. But it took time to get to that point. The retirement question is the one that every person in Philadelphia wanted to hear answered more than any other. Johnson is 36 years old and entering his 14th NFL season. For a tackle who depends on reflexes, strength, and mobility in equal measure to any position across all of professional football, that is a conversation that will surface at the end of every remaining season of his career. And Johnson answered with the clarity that Philadelphia fans deserved. He wanted to come back and finish on a strong note. Those were his exact words. Finish on a strong note. 4 words that carry a dimension far larger than they appear to at first reading. Johnson did not say he wants one more season. He said he wants to finish in a specific way, at a specific level, that confirms the legacy he spent 14 years building with this franchise. This is the language of a competitor who understands what is at stake not just for the team, but for how the career itself is going to be remembered. The 2025 season was cut short by injury before Johnson could show what he still has in the reservoir. The 2026 season is the opportunity to answer that question on the field, not on the pages of a medical report. The context surrounding Johnson as he returns to the field carries real variables that need to be assessed honestly. Jeff Stoutland, the legendary offensive line coach who worked alongside Johnson for years and who was fundamental in the development of every lineman who passed through the Eagles' system over the last decade, is no longer with the franchise. Chris Cooper has assumed the offensive line coach role with a different background than Stoutland, but with a philosophy that may be especially well-suited for Johnson at this stage of his career. Cooper comes from the Denver Broncos, where he spent years developing linemen within systems that emphasize blocking positioning within the outside zone, a scheme that favors tackles with lateral read experience, who are capable of creating space by moving outside rather than simply pinning defenders in place. For a 36-year-old tackle with Johnson's mobility, that philosophy could be the adjustment that maximizes what he still has while managing the limitations that age inevitably imposes. Johnson expressed genuine excitement about playing under Sean Mannion and within the new offensive system being installed. That statement carries real weight at a moment when the Eagles' offense is going through its most significant transformation in years. The outside zone that Saquon Barkley described as the new core of the running game, the under-center looks, the emphasis on pre-snap reads that demand more from every lineman, these are concepts that Johnson has absorbed across more than a decade of operating within sophisticated systems in Philadelphia. The learning curve for a veteran of his experience is minimal, and the leadership he provides within the lineman group during the installation of a new system carries value that goes well beyond the reps he himself will take. The Markel Bell situation adds an interesting additional dimension to the Johnson context. The third-round rookie impressed enough to be with the first team at right tackle during the early minicamp sessions, while Johnson was absent during the voluntary phase. That development does not represent a threat to the starter. It represents exactly what the Eagles need to ensure the most important position on the offensive line has genuine depth if Johnson requires additional recovery time or faces new physical issues across a 17-week regular season. Bell learning alongside Johnson throughout training camp and the preseason is one of the most valuable development scenarios this roster has available. Johnson's declaration that he wants to finish on a strong note is the most important statement any Eagles player produced during this mandatory minicamp. Not because of his depth chart position, not because of his cap number, but because it confirms that the tackle who most impacted the competitiveness of this franchise over the last several years is back with the right motivation, in a system that may favor him, and in a group that will benefit from his presence in ways that no blocking statistic can fully capture. With Lane Johnson confirming his return for a 14th season, expressing genuine excitement about Mannion's system, and declaring that he wants to finish on a strong note, do you believe the great tackle can sustain the level that defines the Eagles when he is on the field across a full 2026 season? And what does having Lane Johnson healthy and motivated from week 1 through the end of the year mean for this franchise's championship chances? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news.